She called 911 and screamed, "He stole my car," while I was standing inside my own garage. The officers rushed up with their hands on their belts, and I just froze. I had my toolbox in one hand and my 8-year-old son standing behind me, scared out of his mind. Karen was out front, waving her arms like she had just caught a thief in action. She shouted, "That's my brand new car. He just broke into it." The neighbors peeked through blinds, whispering, and I could feel everyone's eyes burning into me. I stepped forward, trying to keep calm, and said, "This is my garage. That's my car. I've had it for 3 years." But Karen cut me off, pointing right at me like I was some criminal. "He's lying. Arrest him before he drives away." The cop looked confused but tense, one hand still near his holster. My son tugged my shirt, whispering, "Daddy, what's happening?" My heart dropped. I could smell the gasoline from the mower, feel the heat in the air, and hear Karen's fake sobbing like she was rehearsing for a play. "License and registration," the officer demanded. I started to reach for my wallet, but Karen screamed, "Don't let him pull anything, he's dangerous." The other officer stepped closer, one hand out like I was about to attack. My son started crying, and that sound broke me inside. I took a deep breath and said, steady but low, "You might want to run the plates before you make a mistake." The officers exchanged a quick look. Karen's smile slipped for just a second, like she didn't expect me to stay calm. And then, the cruiser radio buzzed. The dispatcher's voice crackled, "Vehicle registered to." And she said my full name out loud. The officer's eyes snapped to mine. Karen froze, her face draining pale. But before she could back down, she shouted again, "He must have forged it. He's not even allowed to live here." That one line changed everything. The officer raised an eyebrow, his hand still hovering near his holster. But his focus shifted to Karen. "Ma'am, are you saying this man doesn't live here?" She nodded fast, her voice shaky but loud enough for all the neighbors watching. "He's squatting. The HOA already told him to leave. He's trespassing in this entire house." I clenched my jaw. Squatting. This was the home I worked 2 jobs to pay for, the same home where my son was born. My boy gripped my hand, whispering, "Daddy, they believe her." I pulled out my phone slowly and held it up. "Officer, I've got my mortgage app, deed documents, and even the security feed." My voice cracked just a little, but I didn't let Karen see fear. She smirked and pulled something from her purse, a paper stamped with big bold letters. HOA notice of eviction. She waved it like it was the Holy Bible. "See? He's not supposed to be here. I represent the HOA, and he's already been removed. The board gave me authority to handle this property." The cop took the paper, scanned it, and frowned. Something was off, but before he could say a word, Karen leaned closer and hissed at me. "Just loud enough, you should have left quietly. Now I'll make sure your kid cries for real." That hit different. My son squeezed my hand tighter, and the anger that burned inside me nearly slipped out. But I remembered what my father used to say when I was in the service, "Control the moment, or the moment controls you." So instead of snapping, I looked the officer straight in the eye. "Sir, she's impersonating an HOA officer. And you should probably know. I'm not just some guy in a garage. I served 6 years in military police. I know what a real eviction notice looks like. This," I tapped the paper, "is a fake." The neighbors gasped. Karen's face twitched, and she blurted out, "Don't believe him. He's dangerous, he even has weapons inside." And right then, the officer motioned for backup. 2 more patrol cars pulled up, lights flashing red and blue across my driveway. My son hid behind me, trembling as the sound of doors slamming echoed through the street. Neighbors were gathering now, some recording on their phones. Karen's voice grew sharper, almost theatrical. "Search the house. You'll find guns, stolen property, he's a threat to the whole neighborhood." The lead officer held up a hand. "Ma'am, calm down. We'll handle this." But she wouldn't stop. She stepped closer, pointing at me with shaking fingers. He's dangerous. He doesn't belong here. Arrest him before it's too late. My patience was thinning, but I kept steady. I pulled out my phone again and swiped through to my camera feed. Officer, take a look at this. On the screen, clear as daylight, was footage from just yesterday, Karen walking up my driveway, taping the fake eviction notice to my door. She wasn't wearing any HOA badge, no uniform. Just her usual sun hat and sunglasses. The crowd murmured. One of the new officers leaned over the screen, his brows shooting up. That's her. Karen's face turned crimson. She shouted, "That video is fake. He edited it." He's good at lying, I told you. But then, something unexpected happened. From the end of the street, an older man in a gray suit stepped forward, adjusting his tie. His voice cut through the chaos. "That's enough, Karen." The officers turned as the men raised a folder. "I'm the actual president of this HOA. And I've never seen that eviction notice before in my life." The crowd went dead silent. Karen froze, her mouth hanging open. My son peeked from behind me, whispering, "Daddy. Who is he?" I leaned down, eyes still locked on Karen, and said quietly, "That's the man who's about to end this game." But little did I know, Karen had one more card to play. Karen's smile snapped back like a mask. She tossed her hair and stepped toward the man in the gray suit. "Oh, please. Don't act like you don't know what's happening. You're covering for him." Her voice was shrill, echoing across the cul-de-sac. The HOA president frowned, holding up the folder. "Karen, I have official records here. This homeowner is in good standing. No violations, no eviction, no complaints filed. Whatever paperwork you gave these officers, it's a forgery." The officers exchanged looks. One of them muttered, "That's a felony." Karen's eyes darted wildly, and I could see the panic creeping in. But instead of backing down, she pulled out her phone, dialed fast, and shouted, "Fine. If you won't do anything, I'll call the real cops, the ones who already know about him." The line connected, and she switched on speaker. A deep male voice came through, "This is Officer Daniels, who is this?" Karen's face lit up like she had just won. "It's me, Karen. He's here, the man I told you about, the black guy with the stolen car. Send your team now." My stomach twisted. Something was off. The lead officer shook his head. "Ma'am, that's not our dispatch line. Who are you talking to?" And then, the so-called officer on the phone growled, "We're on our way. Hold him there." The HOA president narrowed his eyes. "Put that phone on speaker again." Karen hesitated, but it was too late, the voice was still barking orders. I recognized it instantly, my blood running cold. I had heard that same voice years ago when I was in uniform overseas. I whispered, more to myself than anyone, "That's not a cop. That's a mercenary." Karen grinned, clutching the phone tighter. "Oh, he's real all right. And when he gets here, you'll wish you left quietly." The neighbors gasped. My son squeezed my arm. And for the first time, I realized Karen wasn't just lying. She had backup coming. Karen stood in the middle of my driveway, phone clutched tight, her eyes darting between the flashing police cars. The so-called backup she had called screeched around the corner, a black SUV with tinted windows. No official markings. The doors swung open and two men in tactical gear stepped out. Their vests bare, no badges anywhere in sight. The crowd gasped. One officer instantly shouted, "Hands where we can see them." The men froze, but their eyes burned with hostility. Karen, trembling but defiant, pointed at me. "That's him. Take him." The real cops moved fast. Guns unholstered, they barked, "Drop your weapons." On the ground. The men hesitated, then slowly raised their hands. The HOA president leaned toward the officer and said firmly, "I know exactly who those two are. They're not law enforcement, they're private security. Contractors Karen's been paying off." Karen's face turned pale, but she still screamed, "They work for the HOA. You have no right." The officer cut her off. Ma'am, enough. You're under arrest for filing false reports, forgery, and impersonation. The moment they cuffed her, my son let out a shaky breath and whispered, Daddy. It's over. I knelt down, pulling him close. Yeah, son. It's finally over. The officers led Karen past the crowd. Phones were still recording. Neighbors whispering about what they'd just witnessed. Her voice cracked as she shouted one last desperate line, This isn't fair. He doesn't belong here. I stood tall, holding my boy's hand. And said loud enough for everyone to hear. I fought for this country. I bled for this land. And I'll be damned if anyone tells me I don't belong in my own home. The crowd erupted, cheers, claps, relief. The HOA president shook my hand. You've got allies here. No one can touch your family again. As the police cars pulled away with Karen screaming in the back seat, I looked at my garage, the same place this madness started. The car sat there, quiet and shining under the lights, proof of what was mine. For the first time in weeks, I felt peace. My son smiled up at me, and I said softly, Come on, buddy. Let's go inside. We're finally safe. And for the first time that night, it truly felt like home again. I didn't fight for this country to be told I can't park in my own driveway.